it would help women to cope with those moments of, he's been in his cave, he's withdrawing, he's here but he's not here, he's listening, he's hearing me but he's not listening. It feels like he's there but he's not there. He's not being present. His mind is somewhere else, and wives tend to take offense to that kind of behavior. Hey everybody, it's Busy Mark and I am back with another video, but before we begin, I am pleased to announce that The Modest Fitting has officially launched, a women's clothing boutique offering skirts and dresses that embody modesty, femininity, and beauty. To learn more about dresses like this one and others available for purchase, head over to themodestfitting.com. But without further ado, let's begin. Okay, and so I'm looking at a mini section that is, the notion of it is why women like to talk and why men go into their caves. I'm not going to so much focus on the woman portion, because I think as women we kind of understand ourselves to an extent. It's men that our husbands rather, that we tend to not completely understand and have the ability to correctly interpret their behavior. And when we misinterpret our husband's behavior, we can take offense to it, and then those little small offenses can build up into huge resentments over the years that can make relationships unnecessarily difficult, and in some instances, in extreme instances, can be the demise of a relationship. So that's why I really want to focus on the why men go to their caves, because I think in this book somewhere he says solving the problem depends not on how much they love each other, but on how much they understand each other. And I think that that's a really important call out and a really key point to take away, that when you have understanding, and this is kind of even a biblical principle, that with understanding and wisdom comes good things rather than negative things. When you lack understanding, it can make small problems much bigger problems, and unnecessarily so. The key is understanding. And so he starts by saying, the way that men and women tend to handle and cope with stress is very different. It says men become increasingly focused and withdrawn, while women become increasingly overwhelmed and emotionally involved. These are two different responses. From the man's perspective, the way that women can get really emotional and behave in ways that don't necessarily appeal, at least seemingly, to logic or to reason, but very much so affected by emotions, is something that is, I think, foreign to a lot of men. When men become stressed out, they withdraw. And he calls it men going into their caves, which is, I think, a play on how we as a society say that there's like a man cave and like he's gone into his cave. And while we say it kind of jokingly and as if it's something funny, it's a phenomenon that he thinks is real and very legitimate, and it's integral to the way that men will go about problem solving. He provides an example of... so flattering. You're probably wondering why the video is paused. This is when I remind you to select the like button if you're enjoying this video. And also, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. Back to the video. What it's like for a man to come home after a hard day's work, and how the man thinks about it and how his wife thinks about it. And I'm going to read the short excerpt from it. It says, when Tom comes home, he wants to relax and unwind by quietly reading the news. He is stressed by the unsolved problems of his day and finds relief through forgetting them. His wife, Mary, also wants to relax from her stressful day. She, however, wants to find relief by talking about the problems. The tension slowly builds between them and gradually becomes resentment. This is something that I've heard. He goes on later to say that there's a kind of common understanding a lot of amongst many men, that sometimes they feel like their wives talk too much. And he believes that that comes from not understanding that the way that women will process through stressful incidents and stressful things at work, stressful things in their family, stressful things in their relationships, is by talking them out. Like, that's how women diffuse negative emotion, is by talking it out. To men who don't cope with their problems by talking, but instead by withdrawing. To them, it feels like, wow, this is like information overload. There's like filling the air with so many words. It can feel overwhelming to them, such that they come to the conclusion that women just talk too much. And it isn't that women talk too much, it's that women are trying to process through and get past a problem. Men, on the other hand, will withdraw. And he's a legend that the reason why men withdraw is because they will take time to themselves to try to come about a solution. If there's a problem, and the more stressful the problem is, the more withdrawn he will be. Not because he's trying to emotionally detach from the family, but because the more pressing the problem, the more urgently he's going to seek to try to come to some solution. And men will usually go somewhere by themselves and they'll mull the problem over until they come to some solution. During that time of withdrawal, or what we call men going into their cave, a lot of wives tend to feel neglected, ignored, and just generally uncared for and unloved by their husbands. And he says that that is a conclusion that is misguided. He says if women could understand that their husbands are not necessarily or intentionally trying to neglect them, but that they're urgently trying to come about a solution to make whatever is causing them stress go away, it would help women to cope with those moments of he's been in his cave, he's withdrawing, he's here but he's not here, he's listening, he's hearing me but he's not listening, it feels like he's there but he's not there, he's not being present, his mind is somewhere else. And wives tend to take offense to that kind of behavior in men, but it's by and large, at least the author alleges, that it's because they're not understanding the level of stress that their husbands are under, and they're not recognizing the coping mechanism that most men employ to get rid of the stress, which is to check out mentally, not completely, but to check out from the relationships, to give 100% of the brain's power to solving the problem. Because once the problem is solved, then they feel free to go about the other responsibilities that they have to their wives or their children, to doing things around the home. For men, it is, I've heard it say that like men have an amazing ability to compartmentalize, and that is the case. But what can happen is sometimes until the problem in this one box is fixed, they don't feel free to move on to the other pending responsibilities in the other compartments or in the other boxes. And so that was a big takeaway for me, understanding that whatever your husband does to kind of de-stress from the day, or whatever he does to figure out solutions to problems, whether that is problems at work, problems even in your marriage, problems with extended family members, or whatever he's doing to bring about the solution, is, if you can take a moment, pause and try to not take it personally as an affront on your relationship or how he feels about you, but recognize it as, oh, this is the coping mechanism that this author was talking about that most men employ. They withdraw emotionally, they go into their man cave, maybe they play video games. Sometimes a way of a man giving himself a mental break from the problem so that he can then come back to the problem with a refreshed mind is by checking out, playing video games. Sometimes it might be golf, sometimes sporting events. He talked about that in this book as well, that sporting events is a way that men will oftentimes cope with stress. The reason being is that, let's say that a man is mulling over a problem. He's thinking about it, and he just can't seem to come to a solution. The author suggests that one of the ways that a man will get past that is he will focus on another problem, a problem that's not really directly his to solve, but it's still a problem that can be solved. And a problem that can be solved that a lot of men enjoy is sports. He's alleging that that's a big reason why there's a lot of interest in athletic events and things like that, is because men can identify with their teams and they feel like they're problem solving alongside their favorite team to beat their opponent. And so a win for the team is a win for them. A loss for the team is a personal loss for them. And so that also was interesting, that like the things that women find, I think, annoying, wives can sometimes find annoying, the degree to which he may go to play basketball with his friends, or he may go golfing, or the video games or the sports, but he's probably trying to debrief from his day or debrief from some challenge. And when we try to interfere with that process, we are actually slowing down what could be seen as a kind of healing process. Like, we're slowing down him getting past the problem to the solution and then getting back to the other responsibilities in life. And so I thought that was really interesting and a good takeaway. There's someone at my door. He also brought up another point that I thought was kind of interesting, is that he said, usually when a woman is misinterpreting her husband's attempts to self-soothe or cope with a problem or come to the solution of a problem, which is, you know, his withdrawing, women tend to chase. Like, they chase the man when he is withdrawing, and he's like, that's probably one of the worst things you can possibly do. He's like, once you get better able to identify coping behavior and coping mechanisms in your husband, you can let that be your cue that right now what your husband needs is kind of like your trusting space. Like, you trust him, you trust that everything in the relationship is okay, and you respect his need for space. And at this time, you can take this time to invest in your other relationships. This would be a great time to reach out with friends, spend time with sisters, chat with other relatives. This can also be a time where you use it as me time. So if there's some activity that you like to do, but you typically don't have the opportunity to get to it because you're tending to the needs of your husband or whatever, what have you, when your husband takes his time to be in the cave to mull over a solution for whatever problem, that's not the time to lean in and try to force connection. That's the time to leverage the opportunity and capitalize on the opportunity to do something for yourself. Go shopping, go, or maybe just go. And if you don't want to buy anything, don't buy anything, but just take a minute to just do something for yourself. This is the time to go read a book. This would be a time, if you're on social media, you would make content for your platform. You can go get your nails done. You can go to Marshall's and look for pretty things to put in your kitchen. Like, you can check out new recipes, like whatever it is that you're wanting to do. If you like taking photographs, go outside and take some photographs. This is the time that is a perfect opportunity to invest in yourself and to invest in other relationships and give your husband the space he needs to process through whatever issue he's trying to solve. And when he's come to the solution, trust that he'll come back, and he'll come back refreshed and clear-headed and able to really devote his full attention to you, because he doesn't have a nagging problem that's still pending a solution. Does that make sense? It seems like that makes a lot of sense to me, but until you understand how to interpret the behaviors of your husband properly, his needing to go into the cave or his needing to just kind of like, I've heard some women complain that their husbands take too long in the bathroom. Like, they'll go to the bathroom and they'll stay in there for a long time. And it dawned on me that some husbands are doing that because that's the only time that they have to be alone. That's the only time that they have to be in their man cave mentally, is when they're in the bathroom. They can shut the door and lock it, because otherwise they don't have that time to themselves. And so I would say, as much as it depends on you and as much as you can manage it, hopefully we don't have to make it so that the only time our husbands can have that time to themselves is when they're in the bathroom. Like, hopefully they don't have to take 20 and 30 minutes in there to just get the alone time and the downtime that they need. They can have that, and we understand what's going on. We don't panic about the relationship. We trust that everything is okay and that he just needs some time to process through whatever he's processing through. He also said that if something is super pressing, such that you're not able to really wait for the full process of, your husband doing his man caving stint, he said, because most women or wives are misinterpreting their husband's behavior, they will approach their husbands with demanding tones, with an accusatory tone, like, you never listen, you're never available, you never do anything with me and the kids. All of these feel like accusations, and can, because he's already stressed out with something, can just add fuel to the fire, which can then create a problem where there was not originally a problem. He said a better approach is to, one, recognize that he's processing through some stress. And then if what you need to ask him cannot wait, you can say something along the lines of, hey, it seems like you're needing some time alone, but when you're available, could you please let me know when you're available to talk, or, something that's it's a request that's laced with respect and understanding, as opposed to a demand laced with accusation. Does that make sense? That's going to require some self-awareness and self-control on the part of the wife. And I think that self-control and self-awareness comes easier when you understand that it's not that your husband is being neglectful. He's probably just stressed out, and he's doing what the vast majority of men do when they're stressed out and trying to figure something out, which is to withdraw. Either way, let me know what you guys think about this notion in the comment section below. Does your husband have a proverbial man cave? What is it for you? Does he turn to video games? Is he a sports guy? Does he go play basketball with his friends? Does he go and exercise? Like, what is your husband's man cave response? And do you think that you can, going forward, put some thought and energy into not taking his entering into the man cave personally, and not taking it as an indication of how your husband feels about the marriage and how he feels about you, but instead taking note that, I wonder if there's something going on that he's trying to work through? Do you think that that's something that you could integrate into your interactions with your husband? Either way, put them in the comment section below. As always, thank you, and I will see you next time.
It's not my fault. You've been lying, saying that I took away your peace. Drowning by yourself, now you wanna